Welcome, crypto enthusiasts, to the Independent Reserve Podcast.
Today we have Michele Levine for episode 10 of the Independent Reserve Podcast, and I think that she's got some new name suggestions for us.
Yeah, I think we need to go for a catchier name, shorter name. You explained to me before we got on here about the fact that the whole sort of reason behind this podcast is to sort of showcase that there are real people in the crypto industry
Absolutely.
with real depth and real stories
Yep.
and real lives. So how about tokenizing you? You can't get much more real than tokenizing the person.
I like it. I do like it, and I think we're going to have to work it in.
Let's roll with it. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty stoked to be here.
Hey, what do you think of this new setup we've got?
I'm feeling pretty privileged. I'm feeling a bit like a radio host.
Me too.
I feel like I've missed my calling.
I don't know what to do. I mean, this is the first time we've actually had a proper setup for the crew. Jared and the team have set us up really nice today.
New digs, new mics.
Wait.
Doing well.
Michele, we have to start talking about you and some cool stuff about you first, because the feedback we've been getting from everyone is if we talk too much law, no one will be interested.
I get that.
So I'd love to hear about you, in particular your shoe collection, which I find out now you're actually an avid collector of many things, and we're going to talk about some collecting stuff later on. But definitely the shoes. Let's start there, because that's actually something worth interesting.
Okay. I'm a big fan of kicks, right? Can't go past a pair of good kicks. So I love a good pair of Jordans. I love some vintage Nikes. I like some Reeboks too. Reeboks are coming back strong.
Yes.
Haven't gotten into the Adidas. I think too many people are going with the Adidas option at the moment and the old vintage Adidas. I want to be a bit of an outlier. So I love a good pair of kicks. My husband always sighs when I do the next purchase. But I think you saw my electric green tennis kicks last week, which might have piqued your interest.
I did. They were glorious. Okay, so give us more detail then. So Air Jordans, what have you got for the sneakerheads out there?
I've got a pair of retros. I think they would have been early 90s. They're white, green sole, black, and sort of like a rainbow little... The one that had the sort of grill on the side. I don't know if you remember that one. I don't know what actual version it was. I got some vintage Nike high tops, the classics. The Reebok tennis shoes that are made of tennis ball material, which are pretty cool. Just your classic everyday Nikes. I'm a big fan of Nikes, actually. Nikes and Jordans. Geez, they did well on the Jordan marketing.
They did. Hey, I'm a big fan of Reeboks, particularly back when I was a boy. The one pair of shoes I always wanted I couldn't have were Reebok pumps.
I had Reebok pumps. So my grandparents went to the US. They went to LA. They brought me back 2 pairs, exactly the same, size 13, size 1 back in the day. White, light, with like little pink love hearts with the pump at the front. And I love those shoes. No one else had them. They were gold back then.
All right, so I actually have a pair of Reebok pumps. That's the only fancy pair of shoes I have. But so does Adrian. We've got them now. And Jared, our trusty podcast guy, he's got some as well. So we all bust them out on our Fridays.
Reebok Pump Friday. Can you tell Reebok that the female pumps aren't good enough? Like, you have to go for the male version of the Reebok pumps to get a pair of pumps, I think. These days, like, there's no female version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're all unisex or male.
All right, I'm going to have to find a line in there and tell them that.
Yeah.
Michele, all right. A few things. Let's go through your resume first, just so everyone knows who we're talking to here, if they haven't met you already. So you're a partner at Hamilton Locke. I think everyone knows you from there. But some cool stuff about you do some mentoring and some startup boot camp, and you've overseen a few things like that. You do some general counsel at Flowered HR, and you seem to do a lot of such as extra stuff on the side.
I think the mentoring is general counsel for HR was one of the many steps to lead to the road where I am now. But yeah, basically partner of at Funds and Financial Services team at Hamilton Locke. I get to work with you guys, which is pretty awesome. So my sort of main play is fintech and crypto, but I do traditional financial services too. To get there has been a bit of a roundabout journey, which might be some of the things that you're seeing on the CV. So I started at top tier law firm, was there for a bit, moved to a global one, decided, law's not for me, went to work for a big global corporate, decided, that's not for me, thought I'd do the startup scene. But sometimes being a general counsel in a startup means you're the only responsible adult in the room, which can be a little bit challenging from time to time with very aggressive founders. And so I decided I sort of wanted to work with really innovative businesses, but sort of from the outside rather than in. And so I just had my first child, and I applied for a job when he was 8 weeks old for this ad on LinkedIn, which said boutique financial services firm, fintechs, all kind of that kind of stuff. And it was the Fold Legal, and it was about a 9-month courting process. I took the job, and when I went there and started working, I started doing work on token listings. And that's how I got into crypto. So we started advising on various different tokens, whether they were financial products or not. I think we started off with like some of your vanilla like stablecoins and like silver, gold, commodity-based tokens, but we've forwarded into a whole range of really interesting tokens since then. And that's sort of where the journey into crypto began. So 2019 for me, I'm a bit of a late comer compared to the likes of, I think, most people in independent reserve or sort of in the industry.
And actually, the token listing stuff's kind of interesting at the moment because it seems to be the one area where there's still kind of a lot of conjecture, not just in Australia but in the US, about what's a security, what's not a security, without sort of getting into the full technical details. Where's that kind of sitting at the moment?
I think without getting too technical, US security laws are a bit different to us. I think they've got like a lower threshold in terms of trigger. So if something's a security in the US, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a security here. But we've even seen the SEC walk back from that around ETH, particularly with the ETH ETF. There was some talk and conjecture before the ETH ETF and even afterwards, before it was like approved for listing, that ETH could be a security. I think everyone's pretty confident. Before it wasn't, and now even more so it isn't. But here in Australia, our test is a little bit stricter than the US. And I still think it's an issue just generally making sure when you're listing stuff, it's not accidentally a financial product or something else. And I know that the regulators are definitely watching this space keenly. Yeah,
right. And so in Australia, what are those kind of general sort of, I guess, benchmarks or principles that you kind of have to look at to decide whether something's going to fall into that, the security bucket or not?
So you really have to look at like the rights, features and attributes of the token and how it's sort of used and what does that actually mean. And so you basically have to go line by line through all the different types of financial products and the requirements for each, looking at how that token works and what its rights and features are. And you would know, it's sometimes hard to find anything about a token, and sometimes you get lost in a YouTube whirlpool looking for information about what token does and how it works in the ecosystem. So some have really good collateral out there with their white papers and sort of the FAQs and like, what do they call them, like those GitHubs or the Doc Hubs, which have all the sort of details. Others don't have much at all, and so you're really fishing for what does this thing do in order to form a view of whether it could or could not be like a financial product. So that's sort of what it is. It's sort of like a search and destroy mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you really have to dig in the details and the facts and the details about each particular token and all that kind of stuff. So what's keeping you busy at the moment then, Michelle?
So I think stablecoins. Working on some interesting stablecoin projects at the moment. Some commodity tokens. Just helping our clients manage sort of this, I think, interim period now between sort of reform coming and ASIC regulatory enforcement. So just sort of helping chaperone people through that, making sure they're like as well placed for licensing in the future, but also to address any inquiries that come up with the regulator over the next sort of couple of years. We're still seeing a lot of interest in payments, which is very closely linked to the digital asset sort of industry. Credit products are sort of still happening, and I think we're going to see a real big interest in derivatives. Actually, I think we're about on the precipice of like a big derivative upswing in sort of crypto assets. So, starting to work on projects that look around those kinds of things, whether it be from a market's point of view or a sort of an offering point of view for customers. Yeah,
right. The stablecoin stuff's super interesting. I mean, the prevalence of US dollar stablecoins is just gaining traction every day, and more people are just looking to use US dollar stablecoins for international remittance and payments and all kinds of stuff. Having an Australian dollar stablecoin would be amazing. I think we've got a few projects now, but there's more coming online. And do you think maybe there is room for, I guess, an Australian stablecoin that starts being used internationally, particularly throughout Asia for remittances? Or in payments and settlements?
Well, I think there's scope for international remittance, but I also think there's scope for like local use cases as well. Like if you think about what you do day to day. We're not really using US dollars. We're using Aussie dollars. If a stablecoin can create like faster, more seamless, cheaper payments, just even like locally, I think there's a use case for that. I think Australia is like a pretty good currency. Like it's a fairly stable currency, and some people are starting to move away from the US. So I think another good like country-based currency is probably not a bad thing. I think particularly for emerging Asia, that'd be really interesting to see the use case of a AUD stablecoin rather than a USD stablecoin. But I think the tricky and the challenge is how each geography is regulated will impact the utility of those stablecoins. And so it's just making sure that you have that full global footprint and that full global use in all the geographies that you want to operate. Harmonisation is key. Passporting, let's see something about passporting, I think, is probably where we need to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I think, for example, we see in Australia we have a lot of international students and, people throughout Southeast Asia and emerging Asia that would, want to send money to Australia for various reasons. So an Australian dollar stablecoin in the region makes a lot of sense and people would want to do that. Last Friday, Michelle, you came to our 11th birthday party.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming along. Did you have a good time?
Great. So excited to come. Finally, I get to see your offices, and this is the first party I've gone to.
Yeah.
So I was pretty stoked.
First party?
First party.
So 11 years. So Independent Reserve's been around for 11 years now. We finally got into the best term for it when we had the old office. Did you ever come to the old office before we moved into the new one?
Adrian was too embarrassed to invite me upstairs.
Yeah, I can understand. So we had it's a number of years, many years, when Joni Pirovich came and visited us. She's unfortunately, as I think I've told you, how her episode got wiped because she kicked out the microphone. So we'll get her back on eventually. But she kind of came in the first time she'd been in the room, and she politely described it as a bit duded out, and that was probably the best description.
Like a share house, like a share house, or a
what is gym equipment,
What is it called when you like in the US colleges where you have sort of those like gamma beta sort of houses that are like a bit feral? Was it a bit before the feral or?
No, it wasn't. It was just a bit duded out. We didn't have any pot plants. We didn't have, nothing was really designed. Whereas now we have this nice kitchen space, and I see you saw it. It looks nice. We've actually, as the team's grown, there are a number of women on the team, and they kind of keep the dudedness in line and all that kind of stuff, which is good as well. So it's looking much better. So thanks for coming along. But we, at that party, I know we're having a chat about collectibles.
Yeah.
Just collectibles in general. You mentioned, obviously, you're a shoe collector. My wife's a bit of a collector of all kinds of things. Pokemon cards. Actually, she doesn't collect the Pokemon cards. My son collects the Pokemon cards.
Got any
she
valuable
enjoys
ones?
doing it.
Got any valuable ones?
We've got some Charizards.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay.
We have a lot of them. I don't know that much.
I was watching Gold. I don't know. Have you seen Golden Auctions? On the Netflix. So that's like very interesting for anyone who likes collectibles. He's I think got the biggest collectible online auction house globally.
Yeah.
And it talks about and like prescribes value to a whole range of really random stuff. And so Pokemon cards are like pretty major. They've had a couple of cards on there which were like the rare edition like Pokemon, like Pikachu Pokemon cards, like $1 million a piece. And they had some ones where some Charizards and what have you that are really, I don't know all the various levels of which Pokemon cards are valuable, but I think collectibles is a really interesting space. I don't think we've sort of reached there in terms of the digital collectibles yet, whether that be meme tokens or NFTs. I think people have sort of started buying thinking things have value, but I'm yet to see like a craze like Pokemon or NBA cards or...
Yeah, right. That's the thing.
What did your wife collect with those the mice?
The Mayleg stuff. So she was collecting Mayleg for a while, and this stuff I couldn't understand. There's all these little circus mice. I don't know if you've seen it for people out there. People who are into it are really into it. Little circus mice, and the mice do things. Well, like obviously go to the circus, and they ride around the little bikes, and they just look like little fluffy, stuffed animals. And she had a bunch of this stuff, and she's like, "Oh, you don't understand. This stuff's valuable." I'm like, "It's just circus mice, it's rubbish." And she decided to sell her collection, and I was absolutely amazed. I could not believe the response she got when she went to sell stuff, and various collectors, and she became, I wouldn't say friends, but like various collectors who were really looking for stuff, were just all over her collection and asking for about more, and she ended up selling it all for a profit.
Nice.
So so people, this collectible stuff is incredible. I guess that's the physical thing, right? But like where I'm going to this, where it probably applies to sort of the digitization and blockchains, is that my son, for example, had a bunch of Pokemon cards which he traded with his friend, and he got a bunch of fakes. Like they traded him. I don't know if his friend was trying to cheat him out of it, but he got a lot of fakes, and he didn't pick it up. And he came home and he said, "Oh, look, Mum, these are my new cards that I picked up." But she took one look at them and was like, "No, they're fake."
So like someone's printed them, fake sort of type of thing?
Yeah, and someone has gone out there and just sold a bunch of fake ones, and the laminate, and you could just tell they looked good. I mean, I wouldn't have picked it up. But for someone who knows what they're doing, they would have been able to look at just the gloss on the back of it and go, no, that's been done with a nice printer or something like that. And they were supposedly nice cards. So having some way to, I guess, check the veracity of those things or verify those using like a digital version would be absolutely amazing, right?
Yeah, and I think also, like, can you imagine if you bought like some form of like NFT that was like a membership card where you get first rights at first dibs at the best cards that get like dropped? Like your chances of getting the better cards are better. Like I can see that also with like luxury goods for women, like bags, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, all those expensive bags. Imagine you have an NFT that entitles you to redeem like a bag first in line, like at price, Rolexes, watches, same sort of thing. Like those luxury goods that there's very few of them, high demand, low supply.
Yeah, exactly.
The NFT sort of membership market or like duplicate where you sort of have a mirrored physical and digital, I think is quite valuable. I'm sure we'll see more coming out with some of those big luxury brands over time around like early access, Best Buy type products.
Yeah, so I guess they'd be talking to the lawyers first if they were talking to anyone.
I don't all that is giving you a right to buy something. It's almost like to be technical, it's probably some form of put option over physical property, which is fine.
There we go.
There you go. So it should be right, but I can just see that that's something. And there was always talk about this whole like alternate metaverse, right? When people are going to have like a digital version of themselves in like whether it be the sandboxes or the Decentralized of the world, right? Yep. And that you'd need to have your designer bag in your or your designer shoes or whatever in this like metaverse. Are we going to see where you can buy it in real life and get a duplicate that you can have in game too? That'd be interesting. I don't know how much value it has. It doesn't have much utility. It's more vanity. But I don't know. There's probably lots of use cases that we haven't really thought about. Yeah,
that's the sense I'm getting. It's like it's all coming and people trying to work out exactly how it works. I mean, artwork, for example, is a really good situation. Like, say, for example, like if you're an artist and you can produce your physical art and then you can go, okay, well, I'm going to tie this physical art to, a tokenized version of it, so you can prove ownership of it and prove the history of it. So
the provenance.
Yeah, right. So you can. But then, for example, if you're like, I don't know, okay, it's not Van Gogh's time anymore, but let's say Van Gogh had NFTs back in his day, and he said, well, like, okay, every time you want to change the ownership of this, the smart contract can say, 5% of the royalties or whatever go back to the original artist. So for everyone a day,
it's an annuity. It's
annuity,
like annuity,
right?
Yeah. I think that's important because I think the problem with like creative arts is you produce something, you might make money off it at the original time that you sell it. Often not, because it's only valuable after you've actually passed away. That's when the value really normally gets ascribed to these things. And so you're actually missing out on the commercialization of your like creativity throughout your lifetime. So I think an inbuilt royalty feature, I know some of the Ethereum NFT tokens do have that like functionality where you can have like a royalty forevermore. It makes sense. Like, why shouldn't the artists be ongoingly commercializing their assets, like a song?
Yeah, that's right. And same thing. We had the guys in from Figaro a little while ago, and they talked about the similar type of thing where you could like tokenize, I guess, the ownership of like music, for example, and you can download it and you can play it, and every time you stream it, a certain amount of royalties go back to the artist. And as part of it being a sort of 90-10 split, 10 to the artist, 90 to the production label, you can do it the other way around, right?
So usurping the Spotifys and the Apple Plays of the world. Yeah, well, it would be great, like, to have decentralized music. I think people were sort of trying to do that back in, what was it, in the early 2000s with all the, like, illegal downloads.
Or Napster and all that kind of stuff.
Torrent and Napster People, yeah.
But that was, I think that might have been straight up piracy where they just...
It was
I
piracy.
don't think anyone was getting royalties except for... Oh, no one was getting it. But
No one was getting royalties. But I mean, I think if you gave the money to... If you gave it back to the community.
You gave it back to the community.
No. I mean, like in a new world where you're talking about like a decentralized music application with inbuilt royalties.
Yeah.
That seems fairer.
Totally.
The studios and the Spotifys of this world wouldn't be happy, but the technology progresses and there are always winners and losers. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we've got to talk a little bit about sort of your time in crypto, just the fun stuff, not so much the what ifs. So you said you started in 2019.
Yep.
Kind of since that time, what have you sort of seen that's changed? You know, what's sort of matured, or do you have any sort of views on sort of what needs to maybe happen to sort of mature this industry in particular a little bit?
I think it's probably a couple of things. I've definitely seen a maturity with industry already in the sense that businesses in 2019 are probably going to be smaller, less sort of governance risk sort of frameworks than what they're having now. I think part of that's got to do with sort of the sophistication of the businesses over time to sort of the expectations from regulators and customers alike, but also global geographies sort of adopting sort of regulatory regimes and like IOSCO principles that sort of set out some foundational principles about how you should sort of conduct these types of businesses. So I think that's all feeding into like the BAU in terms of how businesses are doing stuff. I think also the various like winters have forced businesses to be extremely like risk averse. I'm sure like Independent Reserve could even talk about this a bit around making sure that you've got really good, robust sort of levers in place to be able to reduce your risk so that when the market is not up and people aren't trading, you still are a business that can operate, keep the doors open and be profitable. So I think there's a bit of that sort of like essential survival like mentality that comes into a lot of the governance risk. I think the main change is, I think the biggest like damper has been the how crypto's become synonymous with scams. I don't think that's a fair assessment of it. I think scams will always look for the easiest route out or the path of least resistance, and I think the scams don't start in crypto, but they ultimately may end in crypto in the sense of the last payments done in crypto. It's like the last mile of the scam might be crypto, and I think that last mile has been given so much airtime and been synonymized as the actual scam itself that we've actually probably missed a trick on how to actually stop the scam, because I think the risk is probably happened 2, 3, 4, 5 steps before, whether it started from a telco, a bank or somewhere else. And I think the best way of sort of dealing with that is creating probably a more inclusive infrastructure environment where there's actually better communication between sort of traditional players and sort of emerging players, because the more information you have in real time, the more you can do to stop and inform. And so I think until we sort of seeing that happen, and that will come with mass adoption, I think, as well. Those two things, I think, are really going to take the industry further from both like how many people are accessing it on a day-to-day basis, the potential use cases, and sort of the maturity of the business. Yeah, it's a really good point. It's so often overlooked when you think about the scam life cycle, and we're really conscious of it here. In fact, I know all the exchanges are really conscious of it here because we get scapegoated often when it's the last mile and the scam's already taken place before they kind of reach us. So often they'll start with, social media. And so I'm one of those people, whenever I get a scam, I just play them. I have a chat. I often say I enjoy it, but I'm always curious to see what the scam is and to see how they operate. So I'll often engage with them, and my phone number's got internet AIDS. I don't know what you call it. It's out there. It's a virus. I think it's on every dark database in the world. But like, you know what I mean? They'll reach out to you and they will be unscrupulous. They'll try and win your trust. And, I've been reached out to people on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, like all the major platforms, obviously scam text messages and just straight up phone calls. And then, they'll try and win over you. And if you talk to them, they'll win your trust, and it all looks very legitimate up front.
until they build your trust, and then they've gone. But that you know what I mean?
So my view is, I just delete everything. So I think things are getting more sophisticated, and the ability, like with your son's Pokemon cards, to see something from real from fake is becoming really challenging. Like, they're so clever with the way that they do a lot of the like visual formatting, particularly around phishing and stuff, like the visual formatting, the email addresses and everything. It makes it really tricky. So my view is, if I'm not expecting something, I don't know you, it's deleted, like automatically.
Yeah.
And I now don't take numbers. I don't take phone calls from unknown numbers. I'll often let it go to voicemail, because often it's, if someone really wants me, they'll leave a message, they'll email me, or they text me. And so that would be my advice. Just err on the side of caution and delete.
Yeah.
And if someone wants you, or there's a real problem, you'll find out about it through an appropriate channel.
Yeah.
I don't engage. I can't engage. It kills me.
Well, here's you know what else is the challenge, and so some of the most insidious kind of scams that we've sort of been able to foil is, and the reason they're really tricky is that often things like multi-level marketing schemes, or pyramid schemes, or whatever it is, right? Multi-level marketing is a new fancy word for pyramid scheme.
I agree.
And so the challenge is, and we see this quite often, where somebody who is legitimate and they don't realise they're being scammed have roped in their mates into a scam. And so it's like, man, the person you trust is telling you what to do, and you don't realise that they're the ones getting scammed, and they don't realise they're getting scammed. So, it's when someone, a complete stranger, reaches out to you and says, hey, do this thing, you're kind of like, oh, why was I such an idiot? But when your own friend is telling you that, and then do you know what I mean? It's actually a lot harder to...
I think it's the FOMO investment opportunity that normally gets the people. So I think if you're hearing something that sounds too good, invariably it is like too good. If you're buying something that should be expensive at a discount, you are getting scammed somewhere along the line. I think Karen Chester actually got scammed with a pair of shoes. I think it was in the AFR yesterday, and there was some articles saying...
Have you received any fake shoes?
No. I don't buy that too high a designer. I'm a bit stingy. But but I think there was a comment to say, like, if the ex-deputy asset commissioner is getting scammed, like, we've got a problem here. I think I was at an event a couple of weeks back now where Chain Analysis gave a talk around the criminality around these scams and how they operate in parts of Southeast Asia with basically like massive houses of slaves who are basically like bribed through retribution to themselves and their family to conduct the scams, and that if they don't meet their quotas, there's like serious consequences. So when you put those two things together, they're going to try very hard to perpetrate the scam because their life actually and their livelihood depends on it. And it's just another form of criminality. Yeah,
state sanctioned too in some cases.
Some state has, and so unless we start sort of targeting those countries that allow this to like sort of fester because of the way that their like socio-political legal infrastructure operates, we're not going to really stop this.
Yeah.
And I think, and what's really scary is people know where these compounds are. They know what they do, but they can't actually do anything about them because of the size and magnitude and sort of protected species within which they operate. So there sort of needs to be like a global combating of this. I don't know what the answer is, but if you can have those like outposts where people can conduct those kinds of activities, we're all going to... First of all, it's a horrific outcome for them because no one should live like that. But second of all, we're all going to be subject to scams forevermore.
Absolutely, it takes a multi-pronged attack. So even in Australia, just to localise it, you have to think there's moving parts here. There's the social media platforms, there's the telcos, there's the banks, there's the exchanges, there's the law enforcement. There's a bunch of arms that if we all work together, we're going to get a much better outcome than just going, hey, it's your fault, you have to fix it up. Do you know what I mean? So
I think
it's an across the board thing.
I think there's been some work started, I think, with banks and telcos coming together, I think through the assistant treasurer and sort of working on scams. But I think, to be honest, all sort of players who somehow get caught in that chain need to be part of that sort of communication and have the sort of the opportunity and benefit to access the knowledge and do the knowledge sharing, because I think there's always value in knowledge sharing. And I think that requires probably a bit of a change in mindset that exchanges aren't the problem, but can actually be part of the solution.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that we need to change some of that discourse around who's responsible for scams and saying that everyone actually plays a role in a scam, and we all have to do our fair share to either prevent them or stop it if we see it.
Yeah, we're better. The net is stronger and wider if we all work together on that.
Yeah, it's the weakest link is the problem. So and the weakest link can be caused if the weakest link is not actually included in sort of the information sharing protocols or in the ecosystem in terms of access to services and of the like. So I think it's really important part of the solution.
Scams.
Got back on scams. Scams always come up.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, like I said before, I've done some presentations on this before, and there's a lot of groups around that are doing their best to try and do it. But because of the nature of them, they're not going to get better. They're going to get worse. When you hear stories about how, there are places in Asia, I think Myanmar, sorry, if Myanmar is not the place, I probably shouldn't name names.
I think it could be.
But there's these places where, like you said before, these actual compounds, and people are being, trapped there or lured there. The scam starts before the scammer's even there. So they're being lured there for jobs or whatever, then their passports are taken and they're thrown into these situations. And, of course, they're effectively modern-day human trafficking.
And they're slaves, yeah. It's really, I was really quite shocked. I didn't realise the extent of the criminality and premeditation of the entire system. And we're only seeing the last part, which is what someone's doing to try keep themselves safe and not die, or earn enough money just to live. So we need to sort of solve the problem of them getting caught in the first place.
Yeah.
And sort of being trapped.
We should, before we get on maybe a brighter note, I remember, actually, this is a true story. So I remember jumping in a taxi one time, and there was an elder gentleman who was talking to a younger lady, which sounded like maybe from somewhere in Southeast Asia, on his phone. And so oh, bye-bye, my love, and all this kind of stuff. And I was instantly my ears picked up going, and I kind of remember asking the question. I said, well, look, he goes, that was my girlfriend. I said, oh, is she? I said, how often do you catch up with your girlfriend? Does she live overseas? He goes, oh, yeah, she lives over in the Philippines or whatever he said. I was like, okay. So you haven't met her yet? Oh, no, she's coming over here later on and all this kind of stuff, like this, as they're called, the pig butchering scams, where she's obviously been building trust to try and take it. And, of course, some excuse will always pop up. And I said, and I was thinking to myself just at that point, even to the very last person, when they've gained trust, how difficult it is to say, well, look, hey, perhaps this isn't all it seems. Perhaps you're actually getting scammed here. And he goes, no, I'm very, very aware of these things and I wouldn't be happening to me. And I said, has she ever asked for money and this kind of stuff? He goes, oh, yeah, one time she started a business and these people were charging this extraordinary rate. So I helped her out a little bit. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean?
You got done.
But no, it was still going on. And how do you sort of raise, even for the victims of this, how do you even say to them, look, actually, I think...
You've got to cut it.
I think you've got to cut it. Is my job as a guy who's just, I'm in a taxi to tell this guy that he's being scammed?
Well, look, you can always... Look, if you can always suggest that they have a good look, but I mean, you don't know the guy.
Maybe it is. I mean,
I don't know. Look, if you I think it's the kind thing to do, whether they like you for it or not. Sometimes you got to be cruel to be kind, don't you? But yeah, I think I'm quite shocked at how big those pig butchering scams are and how many people get caught by it. Like, it's maybe because a lot of people do online dating. Like these days, it becomes like. It's an available avenue, and people are lonely and probably disconnected, and so I think anyone will take an opportunity. Like, why wouldn't you if someone is showing you love and kindness? Why wouldn't you? But it's just sort of preying on the meanest thing possible to get to scam. Like, it's sort of breaking. It makes me sad for those people because not only are you losing your money, but you're duped in terms of
you've been duped. Yeah.
You're being duped. Yeah. Breaking
hard. We got to turn this around. We can't.
Can't end up on pig butchering scams. I'm just hearing a squeal in my head while I'm saying that. Yeah.
Right. All right. So we have to get back. So before we were chatting, just before the show started, you had a couple ideas that you wanted to float with us. But what we might be able to do. I know you don't want to give too much away because it is a good idea.
I have a good idea.
Let's hear it.
As I said before, and maybe we'll just leave with the teaser, I don't think we've entered the full opportunity where it comes to sort of digital assets and that collectible fever. Like, we've definitely seen over the past what happens with we got Pokemon cards. We had the Beanie. Remember the Beanie Babies?
I don't.
Did you know the Beanie Babies? The
I
Beanie
think I've heard
Babies,
of-
those toys. They was a big craze or some limited edition, but they think they ended up producing too many when they sort of went bust. So the cards, basketball cards, soccer cards. I don't think we've seen like the full use case with like digital assets yet, and creating that sort of excitement about not knowing what you're going to get or how valuable it might actually be. I think to date it's been more like people having a punt and buying things and hoping that it comes good. I think that's a very different thing to that collectibles. I think that's probably more like a gamble than the true collectible sense. And I'm really interested to see what happens in the like traditional collectible sort of mentality in a digital environment.
Yeah, okay. And what other things, actually, while we're talking about collections, we had a lot of talk about collections today. So we know you're a big shoe collector. Have you been collecting any other stuff?
No, I'm to be honest, I'm the most non-sentimental person. So I don't actually like collect objects or things. Like they don't actually bring me much joy. I think that's like true Buddhist mentality. But I do like nice things and wearing nice things. So that's probably where I'm at. But no, I don't. I think I probably wish I had. I used to be a big Nintendo fan, and I saw something. Yeah, I used to be like, Super Mario Karts, Super Mario Brothers, Mario Party.
Or Mario?
Zelda.
Which
Zelda.
Which Nintendo system?
I had the Game Boy when it first got released. Yes. I felt so privileged. I was a 9-year-old in like.
I had one of those. It was amazing.
So excited. My parents got it from one of their friends who used to travel through Singapore. I wouldn't have got it otherwise. It was like the best day of my life.
Okay.
My brother and I at the time, we just moved back from the country. We were staying at my grandparents, and I was like, I wonder what I'm going to get for my present. And I went searching in the drawers, and I found the box before it got given, and I was so excited until I got it.
You were
and
sniffing through your parents' room and
I didn't know if it was
found
real, and I didn't know if it was real or not. And like for those few days before I got it, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a Game Boy. But Tetris obviously was the game that came with. There was a movie about that, which was a really cool movie. Did you see that movie?
No,
I love
that game though.
Yeah, so Tetris.
It came with the game, so
it came with the game. There's actually a movie that explains how that actually came about. It was I forgot the name of it. It's a very cool movie. And then, so had that. Then I missed out the original Nintendo box though, and with the gun with the ducks.
Oh, duck shoot. Yeah, duck hunt. Yeah.
So my cousin had that. I didn't have that. And what was it? Summer games and winter games. We used to do
California games.
Yeah, California. And you used to kick the hacky sack, and then
surfing,
there was like surfing,
skateboarding.
Yeah. So that's like, this is retro, right? And then after that, I think I got a Sega, which was so subpar compared.
Master System. Which one?
Yeah, I don't know. It was really subpar compared to Nintendo. And we had I had Captain Planet on it, Mortal Kombat.
Oh, come on, Mortal Kombat would have been good.
Mortal Kombat was good. And that's something else. I didn't have many games. And then we got Super Nintendo. And then Super Nintendo was game over at the time. And then we went to Nintendo 64.
Yeah, GoldenEye.
Which was like a big step up from even Super, right? And then we had Nintendo Wii.
Yes.
And then we had Nintendo Switch, which I currently got a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
my son's now all into it.
Yeah.
I got it because when I was pregnant with my son, my first one, I was on medication that would keep me up at night and I couldn't go to sleep. And there's only so much you can read and do. And so I was playing Nintendo Switch 2, 3, 4 in the morning because I couldn't sleep.
So you just finished Zelda and every side quest.
I didn't get very far with Zelda. I can't say it was
Really?
I wasn't the best gamer.
Zelda's great.
I never got into Donkey Kong 2. I never had the Donkey Kong game. My cousins had the Donkey Kong game. But I'm not a true gamer from PC. I think if you came from PC...
Yeah, okay.
And you
the
had
hardcore gamers
the
didn't
consoles.
the
They didn't like the consoles. They liked the PC. My cousins had PCs. And they had some R-rated games that I wanted to get in when I was a little kid. And they would never let me do it. Do you remember Larry... Is it Larry
Leisure Suit Larry?
Yeah. They never let me play it. So, we're going real retro here. But...
Oh, this is a good time. This is a good time. I'm sure, yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, when my husband bought me the Nintendo Switch, I didn't want the Nintendo Switch. They had at the same time a retro Nintendo unit that that they'd re-brought out with all the old games.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. I'm still keen on getting that.
You could get them now on USB sticks, right? And you can just plug them and play.
You can plug them in. But I actually wanted the whole console. Yeah.
Back in when I was going through uni in the early noughties, I worked at Target for a little bit, and they had back then. I wish I still had it. They had a bunch of Super Nintendos, like just old ones, old stock. Nobody wanted them. They were selling them for like $10.
It'd be worth so much now.
And I bought one for $10, and I had Mario Kart, and I was playing like the original Street Fighter on it. Street Fighter 2, I guess, wasn't the original, and Mortal Kombat, and it was great. And I just threw it out because I thought, these are old and garbage, and I'm kicking myself.
So
now.
not only so there was a I was reading about, I saw a show about like pristine like Nintendo games that were original edition that had never been opened and played with were worth like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
If you'd had like a console that had never been opened in the box, I think it'd be worth a fair bit of money these days because it's the whole kit and caboodle. It's the console in the box. There was one about like the first edition iPhone that was in the box, and it like sold for like, I think I'm going to say like $30K.
What?
Because it was like the first edition had been boxed, and like they did like X-rays of the phone box to make sure it was like an actual phone in there, because apparently people would put rocks and things, the weight of the phone, and then like reseal it back up to make it feel like it was original.
And
so
nobody wanted to open it up.
No, yeah. But yeah, you'd actually have to, so like you should have bought about 10 and kept them in their wrapping. But these are all shoulda, coulda, wouldas.
I could just bought Bitcoin at $5 as well. So
I could have bought Bitcoin at like, what, 50 cents.
See,
I didn't. I don't. I'm not a good investor when it comes to digital assets.
So what is it with lawyers being gamers? Mike Bassini's a big gamer too.
I don't think I'm a gamer. Like,
what?
I think I wouldn't say I'm a gamer. I'm like sort of like a traditional like 80s baby that grew up with like gaming consoles, right?
Yeah.
And like I think it was so precious because I don't know about you, but I hardly got to have any TV. So when we had time to play games, it was good, right? We'd wake up early on a Saturday morning, 6 a.m., go down, play for a couple of hours before my parents woke up. My kids have everything on demand. What do they need to wake up early for? But yeah, no, I don't think I'm a gamer. I definitely I wouldn't know what the equivalent of Mario Brothers is on Nintendo in like Web3 games. Is it I don't know, what is it? Do you know? Comments?
I don't know. We need comments on that because I don't know either.
Is it like everything that like what Immutable's building? I'm not sure. I haven't gotten into it. Have you played any Web3 games?
No, I'm aware of some. Like Axie Infinity and stuff like that. On Ton.
Oh, on Ton. Okay.
Yeah, Ton. No, Ton's been doing a bunch of stuff on that actually. I'm aware of, particularly on Ton. I guess Ton is a fascinating one because Ton is this amazing sort of one which is like seems to be totally underutilized because they've already got like 700 million users.
Okay.
Right, or in Telegraph that is, Telegram, sorry.
Okay.
And it's just a matter, and they're like going, well, you've got all these people and focus on hyper-casualised gaming.
So is it like a group on Telegram that it's been doing? Like a channel or a group or something?
Like a channel, yeah. So you're on Ton and so you're on Telegram and you're like, well, what am I going? You're on Telegram chatting to your mates and all of a sudden you just play these little games and like, these little fun games like the Elasto Man ones where they just kind of move around and do all that kind of stuff, or other little ones, I haven't heard of them. Yeah.
This is like, I think that next generation, like what are they going to be interested in? What are we going to do with like the tokens or the games that they're buying? How are we going to build in like real life use cases and transactional functionality? Like, are we going to be in a place where like the younger kids today are buying meme tokens and that actually is going to be a currency that they can use to make payments with? Like, I think like we haven't really seen the build out of everything. Like, I feel like some smart person is going to build out like a super app for like the next gen that's going to use meme tokens as the fuel.
The
like,
everything app,
yeah. Like, so I think solutions are only limited by our imagination at this point. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. In fact, that was a very similar thing. I know Luke from Vicara Capital was talking about that very, very thing. It's all kind of happening, and he was kind of saying, well, Elon in a way is kind of trying to do that with our X and turn into payments and a bunch of other stuff as well. But it's just a thing. Like you're only limited by imagination. Someone's just got to build it. So we kind of have some of the tech now that we can do this.
I think if you've got like critical mass, like if you've got millions of people holding these meme tokens or whatever else it might be, building something that uses it actually becomes quite easy. Sometimes people build stuff and then they want to bring people to it. I feel like with some of the like waves we're seeing at the moment, you're almost going to see things built off the back of like trends and fads rather than have people come to them. Like, not like Afterpay. It will be the other way around. Like, people will have something, they won't know the utility of it, and then someone will give them utility through some functionality that actually makes their life better, easier. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I like the term, you hear a bit in crypto, the Cambrian explosion of sort of ideas. We've got all these different currencies, got all these different tokens, all different blockchains. Which one exactly wins and thrives and survives is kind of, I guess, done by iteration and all that kind of stuff down the path. So it's all...
Which one are you picking?
I don't know.
I think there'll be a few. I don't think there'll be one.
I feel it's a bit like back in the I guess late 90s when the internet was really coming on, and you know we'd gone from the dial-up days and everyone was just using it, but still people were still figuring out how to use Explorer, and there was a bunch of different things. You didn't know that Google was going to win. You had, remember all those
Firefox? There was Firefox.
There was Firefox. There was Netscape. There was Explorer. Ask Jeeves.
Oh yeah.
Mama. Remember these ones? And like there was a bunch of them, and someone sort of said, okay, which Yahoo.
Expedia. No. There was the other one. Not Expedia. There was another one.
Alta Vista.
There you go. Yeah, I knew there was another one. Yeah.
And like you didn't. If someone said, okay, you got to pick one, and which one's going to win? You got to put all your money into that one. You wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known Google was just going to come out and just dominate everything. You just didn't know at the time. And we're probably feels like we're around about that stage now where something's going to just absolutely mop the floor with everything else. Is it going to be everything built on each?
But do you think it'll be one?
There's room for two. I mean, we still have Bing.
We do have Bing. I think what is it? The AI functionality has brought Bing back, right?
Yeah. You just don't know.
So look, I don't think there'll be one. I think there'll be a few. I don't know how many a few is. I don't know which ones. But I think if all traffic's on one chain or one network, it's just going to be a bit tricky. I think from like a computer validation point of view.
You're trying to find the holy trinity. If everyone's using ETH, it becomes super expensive, right?
I know with the proof of stake model, it's a lot cheaper and the energy factors come down significantly. But if you put an entire world on one chain, it's not going to be optimum, right? So I think we'll probably see like multiple trains that actually are playing different roles. I think you won't see them all having the same sort of business and sort of focus, but I think you'll have ones that focus on particular things, and they'll become sort of niche chains, almost like verticals. And I think those chains themselves are probably working out where they fit still, but that's how I think it's going to play out. I
guess in interoperability and
and I think we need to have really good bridges. We need to have really good bridges, and and I think, I mean, you probably know this more than me, but whenever there's a bridge, there's a risk of loss, right? And hack. So how do we stop that? And I think that all comes down to like standardizations of protocols and security and a whole range of stuff. So I think it's all doable. It's just going to take time.
It's being built. It's all being worked out. Well, I know what I wanted to ask, which I should have asked at the beginning, because eventually this is what happens. We have these awesome guests along, and if you look at people like your experience, and you've worked at all the major law firms, Norton, Rose, Fulbright, Clayton Utz, you've done everything. And so people go, oh, you're a lawyer, but actually there's a bunch of interesting stuff that we've never really uncovered, like your sneaker collection. There's a whole bunch of a computer gamer. So I should have asked this at the beginning, because then I could work it out. But what are the stuff you do in your free time? Like, what keeps you busy when you're not working?
I wish I could say a lot more.
Apart from being a mum, and I know that takes up a lot of time.
It takes a lot of time. Look, I do like art. I'd like to get back into art. Like, I like drawing. I like sketching. That'd be quite fun. You got some art. You got some sketches you can share with us? Oh, nah. My dad's an artist, though. He wants me to get back in with him. He's a watercolour sort of oil painter now in retirement. I've got to get into it. I think that creativity element of my life. I'm like very entrepreneurial. I like to do like business on the side of like my everyday job. I think that's fun. And what else do I like doing? I love sport. I'm a big sport watcher. Cricket, summer of cricket. Love a good summer of cricket. FIFA, World Cup, love that. Basketball. I'm looking forward to the Olympics. That's going to be a lot of my free time. And Olympics viewing, I think.
Oh, Olympics viewing is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love sport. But I probably don't have as much time to do like the things that I would love to do. I want to learn an instrument.
Oh yeah,
drums would be cool.
There's not enough drummers. Like a lot of people can play guitar and play bass, but there's not enough drummers.
My parents denied me as a kid, and so now I need to do it, like just to round out my life. Yeah.
Well, you know what you can do, like these days, and I learned drums for a little bit. I'm not a drummer. I just was like, I wanted to learn them at some point. And so I bought a drum kit, like from like a trash and treasure place.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I learned like 5 different grooves and that was all I can play. They weren't in time, I imagine. But so loud, right? And so
I want a synthetic one, I think.
But now you can get synthetics ones.
Yeah.
So if you get a good synthetic one that doesn't have all the chords and stuff, you can just practice to heart's content.
And you've got the headphones on too.
Yeah. And now you can just play all the time. So I'm thinking about getting one of them for my son because he's got to learn something.
If you find a good one, let me know because I might get into it. But yeah, I'd like to do an instrument and probably a language. But these are all like on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Italian's for me. I want to learn Italian.
Yeah.
It's I'd like more time. And I want to pick up probably like a martial art. So the really cool thing about
that's a lot of things to do.
I know.
That's a lot of things to
but
do.
the really cool thing about Hamilton Locke is they've got this program called the Da Vinci program.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is to encourage you to learn a new skill or do something different.
Yeah, right.
And they actually like sponsor you to do it. And the whole intent behind it is if you learn a new skill and you put yourself out there and stretch yourself, you're more likely to stretch yourself at work too. It's this whole concept of like getting that muscle memory in terms of stretching, and it's okay to not be good at something. It's okay to take time to learn how to do it. And I have not been able to do the Da Vinci Code to date because I've had my 2 kids between it. But karate is my next pick on the Da Vinci Code. Yeah.
All right.
It's coming up. This thing's coming up in the next few weeks. I'm going to put an application in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like a martial art would be amazing just for your fitness and the camaraderie and, you know, because my son does jiu-jitsu and he's been doing it since he was 5. So he's been doing it for a few years now. He's really good. We wrestle at home and I find it hard to contain him. I feel
like it's also like, I don't know what it is about it, if it's the following the instruction or the mindfulness that comes with it, but I think they learn to control themselves a bit more. So like it's all comes with like we're teaching you something that could really hurt someone, but you can't actually use it. That whole sort of control component I think is really valuable in terms of like learning how to self-regulate.
Absolutely.
And so I'd love my son to do it too. He's just a big soccer fan. But yeah, I think that self-regulation and that control, like you could hurt someone really badly, but you can't, and not being able to access it is like quite a valuable thing.
It's just also the confidence that comes with it. My son does lots of little tournaments and stuff. He loves doing it. And to me, the idea of stepping up onto like the mats and having to go fight some dude is like not on my top 10, not in my top 100 list of things I'd like to do. But for him, he's like, yeah, and he's not even scared. He just jumps up there and he just goes at it like a buzzard. And I'm like, what's that doing for his self-confidence to get up there and go, yeah,
well,
win,
you're facing
lose,
a fear.
Draw, it doesn't matter.
Well, you're facing a fear too, because like it can't be great to go up against someone who's probably bigger than you and can actually hurt you. So there's like that. But two, I think it's sort of like you can do this, and yes, it doesn't matter if you win, lose. You've just rocked up and had a crack. Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so so you got the Da Vinci program, but you've got 1,000 things you want to do. What are you going to do? Like, what's the one thing we're going to see you in a year's doing and going, you know what, actually?
Oh, probably nothing. But no, knowing me, because I take on too much. But I really do think the first thing off the rank is probably going to be like a fitness thing, like a karate or some form of class. I need to get fit. I need to get strong.
Okay.
I carry my daughter around. She's very heavy.
How old is she now?
She's 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
She's in that toddler tantrum phase.
That's tough.
But she's really cute.
That's tough.
They're coming good. Three's good. Three's a good age.
Three's good. No, I'm happy.
3 to 4 is ideal.
Yeah, I'm happy now because my youngest now 6, and I'm happy to kind of be through all that stage. That was, in fact, I've just blocked out of my memory. Everyone talks about what's like. I'm like, you know, I can't remember. It's probably fine. Actually, that's because I've blocked it out because it's so traumatic.
I think it's just like, I don't know if it's traumatic. I think it's exhausting, and I think you just don't have muscle memory recall because you're just actually exhausted. Like I think you're constantly on the go, whether it's like work, kids, home. Doesn't stop, does it?
Nature's found a way to trick you into having more kids because when you look back at it, they're like, I could have another one. It wasn't that bad. Then you have another one, you're like, I don't remember.
The hormones.
Bad. Yeah, it messes with you.
Well, I'm so grateful to be here today, and I get to use all your new kit, which is really exciting.
Yeah, what do you think of our new setup, Michelle?
Love it.
We decided to get some proper microphones and instead of just guessing. And
next time I want a gold one though. I want to be like, was it John Laws or Ray Hadley or something? They have like the gold mic.
Yeah, the gold mic.
Yeah.
All right.
But no, it's really cool having a chat with you about all things life, crypto, scams.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot.
We went a lot of places today. One of the things when we started doing this podcast is we really wanted to find people in the space. Often when we're speaking to people outside of crypto, they're like, oh, crypto's not a real thing. There's no real people. It's just kind of a thing that happens in the internet somewhere, and there's like 5 people doing it, right?
Is it a crypto bro thing?
It's a crypto bro thing.
Yeah,
and
okay.
then when you go and showcase some of the people who actually work in the industry and the level of depth and people and the quality of the people that are in this industry, you kind of go, well, actually, here's the people. Okay, maybe it's not everything is cracked up to be, but here are the people who are building things and working in this space to kind of bring some technology that the rest of you guys are going to really, really enjoy one day.
My goal is to try
and
to bring it safely and make sure you do it compliantly. Yeah.
So that's a long-winded way of saying you're another great example of that.
Thanks.
So, thank you for coming along and talking to us.
Thank you.
All right, we're done.
See you later, guys.
Independent Reserve, the trusted cryptocurrency exchange.